Be watchful and strengthen the things that remain, but which were ready to die. The founding of our great nation began with examples of heroic witness. Men, women, and children lost their homes, their property, their fortunes, and many lost their lives. The most noteworthy patriots of the American Revolution were not merely peasant militiamen. In fact, it was lawyers, large property owners, and religious and political leaders who stood firm for the cause of liberty. They had no organized army and no navy, yet they battled the strongest military force in the world. They fought knowing that if captured, they'd be hung as traitors to the king. Because of the heroic sacrifices of these ancestors of ours, America began as a free nation, a religious nation, one nation under God. And yet, despite this providential history, a general consensus has emerged that something in America, something in our culture, is deeply wrong. In fact, beneath the surface of our seemingly tranquil existence, an intense ideological struggle is being waged between two competing worldviews. It is an organized effort which seeks to systematically subvert the religious and moral foundations of our society in order to impose its own selfish political agenda. These new revolutionaries assume that America is no longer a Christian nation and no longer in need of God. They believe that marriage must be redefined, public prayer and the Ten Commandments must be outlawed, pornography must be protected, and that abortion and euthanasia are merely matters of choice. This is a contest for the soul of America. It threatens our government, our schools, our churches, and our children. This time, our threat is not from a distant shore, but from within, as Abraham Lincoln prophetically warned. If destruction be our lot, we must ourselves be its author and finisher. As a nation of free men, we must live through all time or die by suicide. How has this happened? How has this transformation been brought about? Through the courts.
Everything changed in the early 1960s when judicial activists, realizing the latent power of the United States Supreme Court, took control of that organization and combined with organizations such as the ACLU, were able to impose on the rest of us a political philosophy which none of us had voted for. They were able to circumvent the legislative branch of government and slowly became the most dominant force in our society.
It is no secret that America is now reeling from the staggering effects of a full-funded and well-organized culture war designed to de-Christianize America and trample on the legacy and vision of our founding fathers.
This country was founded by people of faith. This country was founded on the idea that we are endowed by our Creator, not by some body of Congress, but by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. And the most important among them is freedom of conscience, freedom to practice the faith that you want. What we are seeing now is what the left and what the liberals are pushing is they want not the freedom to pursue truth, but the freedom from truth, the freedom from God.
Vital to this conflict is the ability to use the judicial branch of government to impose its agenda, in accord with activist organizations such as the American Civil Liberties Union, Planned Parenthood, NARAL, the Human Rights Campaign, National Abortion Federation, Americans United for Separation of Church and State, and others.
Well, what the Supreme Court has done is to pervert the Constitution and to impose its own values and views upon the nation by perverting the Constitution. And basically, it has imposed the values of the Cultural Revolution upon America's public institutions, driving God and the Ten Commandments and the Bible out of all public schools and all public squares. And when they've left, what has entered is the values of modernism, the values of the Cultural Revolution, and they're in the American public schools now. And I think unless we overthrow this tyranny of judges under which we live, we're going to be forced to live in a godless and pagan society, which is what we have today.
Without the voice nor vote of the people, liberal activists seized influence and power over our highest courts.
This notion that we get now in law school that the law is what the judge says it is rather than what the legislature intended it to be has led to a judiciary that really sees itself in the role of establishing the law and mores for the society, following whatever may be their predilections or particular agendas, rather than seeking in a disciplined way conscientiously to understand and to apply the law.
Their strategy? To infiltrate our highest courts using a staggering financial cash in excess of $200 million annually.
Planned Parenthood has not only access to its own donors, but also gets or obtains a significant amount of money from the U.S. government.
Without the voice of the people, without a democratic vote, the consequences of these court decisions have been nothing short of catastrophic. Just as our forefathers fought for truth and freedom from persecution 200 years ago, again we are called to fight against this new tyranny, to battle for the Christian soul of America, the future of our children. As with our nation's founders, our contest is critical, and the sacrifice needed from us in this culture war is just as great. Thankfully, an arsenal of talented public servants, gifted Christian litigators, has emerged to lead our nation toward the restoration of its moral foundation. These are the modern-day patriots of the Thomas More Law Center. The mission of the Thomas More Law Center is perfectly clear: to defend and promote time-honored family values, to defend and promote the religious freedom of Christians, and to defend and promote the sanctity of human life. Without charge or cost to their clients, the Thomas More Law Center not only defends those fighting the culture war, but also aggressively pursues offensive litigation against the ACLU and similar liberal activist groups at our nation's highest courts. Their work in the judicial system is critical, and the results truly inspiring.